and just being however she is, subtle, meek, humble, laughing, doing her cool chord shapes of expression as she becomes more and more confident. It's really awesome. Every being I ever come into contact with, we always have been having such amazing learning and growths, and I've been coming into great, amazing learning and growths with the feminine ever since I welcomed in my feminine expression, my sacred sexuality. I allowed myself to finally go towards desire again. That I wanted sex, that I wanted love, that I wanted hugs, and whatever else, that I wanted the female. And so I allowed myself to approach the female and unclog the limitation that was the throat when it came to mine and her interaction with one another. And it did not lead me to be a pervert and some volatile, imbalanced expressing sexuality of male chauvinistic mentality or something. It didn't cause me to be a pervert and some overbearing, nasty male that would be hated by all. No, it instead allowed me to be a really amazing, impeccable, loving, intentional, authentic being that showed what it meant to have true honesty and integrity and to be freely, truly loving in a free way towards another being that didn't try to limit it or grab onto it or control it, but just wanted to help it grow and be there genuinely because it just wished to be, because it was really, truly attracted to that being in that moment. And again, not in a way of grasping, but the way that was there fully expressing all of its love and great beauty. And that gave me so many amazing healings and teachings and growth, and just through the radical act of self-expression, being honest, saying, hey, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm a limitless channel of oneness, empty as all is, and I'm surrendered to everything, and I can't ever do anything but do that. So I don't know what that means for us, but I know that I love you and I'm attracted to you and I want to be here in this moment with you and I want to learn and grow in this manner. Or maybe that I don't know that I do, or whatever it is, or this is going on, or that is going on, or whatever happened to be going on. And all of those things led to very amazing, beautiful fruitions of relationships and teachings, growths and learnings, where these females had experienced a love where they had never experienced that kind of love before. And also myself, I had experienced a love I had never experienced before. A love for myself and a love for another, which is all the same in a literal way. And it was so very beautiful, how amazing, and how much more specific did I get. Much more clearer and clearer reflections as I came much more authentic and honest with the mirror as I was giving a beautiful sowing of seed that I would reap quite instantly, actually, the fruit of this amazing sowing of such a nutritional, phenomenal tree, so sustainably, eternally growing in the most amazing alignment and efficiency with the truth of all that is the harmony of all beings. This tree grows the most quickly, the sowing of its seeds, authenticity, honesty, coming into truth, into realness, into the place that everything is, with all beings right here now in this moment, spontaneous, vulnerable as all ever, but true, showing your heart, being your heart, being the moment as you are, even if you're sad, depressed, lonely, whatever it is. It is a beautiful teaching, amazing benefit and bliss, and only judgment can make us see anything different than this. And we can transcend this through the help of our medicine teachers and from one another, through building each other up in a really amazing way that we don't have to fight or compare or compete, that we can really see each other in our great beauties and really build each other up because we don't know how great and worthy we are. Some of us think that we're worthy in a way that isn't actually believing that we're worthy. We act that way in defense of the way in which we feel opposite. And so when we can find that in another being, we can see truly what the real story is, no matter what is being reverberated and viewing. And so whenever we cut deep to the root of the teaching, we can always lead to a great wisdom for the benefit of all beings. I'm really into this myself personally. I do my best to cut through the obscurations and lead a being to authentic benefit. That's why I say if we come and talk to one another one-on-one, it might be really helpful to work with each other more specifically. But you would have to be very ready to work through the triggerings of your shadow and know that you're probably skewed in some manner, and that I will probably say so very directly in a way that's so authentic that causes you a triggering and reverberation that may even cause you to hate and want to punch me. It'd probably be more difficult for you to do so because I'm not actually sending an attack or defending energy at you, so I don't really create reverberation with the genuinity of my expression, the wisdom of non-action being truth and authenticity, without the need to overcome or overpower or be against anything, but for everything in a way of unconditionality, not trying to force anything into some kind of changing, but loving it unconditionally, allowing it to be truly however it wishes to be. And just then also allowing myself to do that and expressing authentically from that place of allowance of myself to be however it is I may be. So that's what governs the expression authentically for the efficiency of living unconditionally without reverberation or force, control, manipulation, or against mentalities towards any part of our reality, attack or defense, which are the same energies, just appearing in different ways. Typically, if you have an attack, it really is a defense, preemptive defense. Or based on something that came by you. Whatever stimuli led us to live that lie in a truthful manner for the benefit of everything. So no reason to judge ourselves. We can forgive ourselves for anything. Move on forward with the way that we know to be of a higher benefit and efficiency to us from our current point in awareness now today. Always doing our best, being impeccable with our word, not making assumptions, and not taking things personally. The Four Toltec Truths, or Four Agreements, Toltec Wisdom, very beautiful book by is it Don Miguel, something, I don't know. Whoever. Very beautiful book series. Amazing, live by those teachings every day in a big way, along with Ho'oponopono, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And really applying true understandings to those teachings as to why I'm sorry and why I'm asking for forgiveness and why it is that I am grateful for whatever it is that I happen to be saying this to, and how it is that I do love it, or even aspire to love it even greater. I love it unconditionally, and why, and all these things. Eventually, after saying that so many times repetitively in a redundant nature, eventually it becomes something sewn within the fabric of your being, to where the simplicity and action of saying even Ho'oponopono, with the relation of it, meaning those things in definition to the length and duration of their fullness, in which you come into the true embodiment of their frequencies in viewing and expressing towards another being in prayer or aspiration or whatever it happens to be. And eventually is that the intention is there, even with the beginning feeling that moves towards the direction of setting such an intention or saying such words, then it begins right there in that motioning. And then the way that's the kind of a certain cycle reflecting the rising of bodhicitta within a being. That once bodhicitta is risen, then every one of the actions carries that bodhicitta. But upon rising bodhicitta, certain actions are there to bring us into the alignment of that intention and that understanding, and thus that embodiment, and never wavering into any lesser type of persona or belief than that what is truly known to be of the greatest of eternal standing, which is the rising of bodhicitta, and for the benefit of all beings everywhere without one exception, with every one of our actions, even from the smallest of our movements and motions and expressions. And aligning with these types of intentions align us with the embodiment of the heart's frequency, which align us with the authentic understandings and realizations that are there with those particular embodiments of frequencies. So when we come into those places of true understanding, we then align with those frequencies and the realizations that come with the wisdom teachings of those frequencies. And so it's really wonderful to move through all the motions of the body and the breath, and from the point in which I got brought into awareness, because it was a great place of a wonderful, sturdy foundation, very difficult to be shaken. It was such a truth and a constant. But I got moved through the motions to points where realization was brought through the sifting of my own consciousness, the polishing of my own mirror, through the following of the beginning of motion, and then not ceasing of motion until the motion ceased on its own. And so when I came to my very first stopping point, I moved through a channel with a curvature that was curved exactly as my hand. And as I noticed that it was curved exactly as my hand, to the shape of my hand entirely, to the smallest dimension of measurement, I then realized what the channels looked like. It opened up a huge realization and way to perceive. And this happened without medicine ceremony. This happened in life. And soon after that, I was able to release all the frequencies through me. As I felt anger and blew it into the sand before me, remembering all the times that I had suppressed it in my past, Seeing all those times I had had thoughts of throwing people through walls, bullies in school, or whatever it was, seeing those things and expressing them outwardly, but in a way of not volatility. This time there was no pinching or resistance on the expression of the energy. And so it came through with amazing symmetry and balanced, gorgeous, elegant motions, like the greatest one of my wisdom teachers ever. And it moved the energy out in a way, again, of great elegance and beauty and dance and powerful tribal shamanic ceremony that moved with precision and focus, that was not of a drunken, insane person that was taken by some weird voodooic energy to where they were convulsing in some kind of uncontrollable manner, but no, a being that was so precise and on point that it looked to be masterful. It looked to be something that knew exactly what it was doing to the greatest amount of perfection of doing it. That God itself, or divinity embodied, might be the perpetuator of that motioning. And for me, I knew for sure that it was actually that exactly. As I was not moving myself, I had allowed myself, surrendered myself, let go of myself enough to where I was finally observing and witnessing the entirety of that teaching happen through me, as I was moved through the amazing, phenomenal synchronicities and the motionings of these energies that no longer expressed in volatility, as there was no suppression to their identity. The allowance of them fully allowed them to express in balance and come into unity, and allowed then the entirety of the male, the entirety of the female to meet as one in an equal way and spin themselves into a unity and unite me as the heart of all beings in understanding, realizing myself as a pure energy baby, the center frequency, the middle way, and coming into being able to express limitlessly as this point in emptiness that is the conglomeration of all of enlightened mind expressing through a singular being. And to see that we are all this equally, and be able to bring then upon the world the teaching that is the realization of this, to show that yes, you too are all this, and to bring it into a logical place, a scientific focus, that we can understand this logically and not feel so confronted and defensive, so that we can intake this frequency, harmonize with it, and allow it to really help us liberate and unlimit ourselves from the suffering caused by the illusory understandings that we believe and perpetuate through that belief from our everyday actions. Every day we start the day in every way. It's okay. These reverberations are perfect and necessary. We need not judge ourselves. We need not work in emergency or anxiety because of these things. Whatever is happening perfectly, and we are not doing this. But we come into places of realization and points of focus to see what it is that we feel naturally to be of benefit in this moment. If you feel like helping your family or doing this job or whatever it is, that's fine, no problem. If you feel like sitting down and going into medicine ceremony and setting intention to release yourself for the benefit of all beings, then that's awesome. I hope to understand your findings, that you would maybe share it with me. Maybe it is not that you will come to the same realization as me. What I found out about myself is that I'm a very unique and special being, that I'm a being of certain type of frequency, that there not be many beings like me in this current reality that vibrated this type of frequency. And that's what allows me to see so centeredly. And it makes a lot of sense because other things had to exist in conglomeration around me to allow me this type of viewing. So it does make sense that I would be extremely unique, and so are all of we. And I can't wait till we share through the knowing of ourselves truly the amazing, perfect embodiment of the unique frequencies in which we happen to be expressing and viewing as personally, currently, whatever now moment we happen to be being in, so that I can have a higher understanding perspective on what is occurring not only for myself, but for all of us as well. And you see how we synchronize and harmonize the similarities and the differences and all the great amount of beauties that make us all of all that is. So thank you so much. I really want to do this channel constantly, forever, and just never cease. So I really just want to be a benefit all the time, and naturally, I've been moved to this naturally, and I have to continuously settle myself and release my focus, any kind of way I would fixate or grasp on or attach to whatever it is that I may be wishing to portray, whatever I think is already being portrayed, and so my following onto what I believe the next line should be. As I get out of my way and just allow expression to say whatever it wishes to say, I see that it actually does align with everything all on its own very naturally. And you can be sure and true that any time that I've been here with you, I've not been leading me there may have been some subtle resistance or some wish to like express more loudly, but I've been following the center of focus for the entirety. And anytime that I have led me in any kind of a way, I start to then say, I don't need to control me, I don't need to manipulate me, I don't need to guide me. If you ever say or hear me say those kinds of things, sometimes it's just because I'm saying that in a way of teaching that to others or showing that to others because of the example that's been coming through in the moment in that time and how it is a true understanding that can be relayed in a way that we can usually commonly say that we understand what it is that is being related when that is stated. But also, if it's happening during song or one of those types of channels, it's typically to show myself that I don't need to continue trying to determine where something's going to go. Now that happens a lot with the rhyme flow. So if a rhyme flow comes in, I usually not sure if I'm like gaining preference to rhyme or trying to sound poetic or cool or something, or if it's just something that's coming in. But it is something that I'm observing right now, and I'm trying to find out, does it want me to go into the rhyme? Does it want me to stay here? Do I have some kind of resistance? For me at this time, again, I have not gone into the rhyme, the poetry flow for an extremely long time, but eventually it may be that I'm able to do it for the entire duration of a day, and 2 days, and 3 days in a row without cease. And at that time, it will become so natural and habitual to where I'll be able to follow the chord shape through and be able to discuss greater and greater as to what it is that's occurring. But still in simplicity, I'm able to discuss what's occurring when it comes to the following of the breath and the following of the curvature of the moment and how it is that it's moving things. So as you begin the breath with sound, you begin to feel how it goes. And sometimes it begins to dwindle in its tone, but your energy to continue momentum doesn't dwindle. So what's that about? And so if it dwindles in its tone, but the energy or momentum to continue the tone doesn't really dwindle even though the tone is dwindling, then you start up the tone again, you may find out that the breath actually starts up on a different tone. And that one lasts for another duration, it seems to dwindle. And when you kick back, you get another tone, and that's the new one that's starting to dwindle. And then you do this over and over, and eventually as you start to bounce on the rhythm of these different long durations of tone and chord structure, you start to find a different syllable structure led by the beginning syllable that leads you to a rhythm that brings upon the next syllable and the next syllable and the next syllable. As you become extremely presently aware with this happening, you begin to be able to feel it coming into the next sound before you even get the whole next syllable through. So maybe it's like an R and an A, and you start to feel like the little tiny piece of an R before the line and the curve, that little piece that sometimes people put on their R that's unnecessary. So you start to feel that start to make the R before you get the whole R in there. Some kind of crazy other tone. And so because that, though, came and you felt that tiny little piece, all you have to do is breathe forward, which for you right now, the breath is connected to the tone. So it's woo. So that's where the breath is. And you can feel that breath go woo. And so you can feel it start that word. And even though you don't know quite what it is, you can feel the start of it. And so you just lean into that start of it with your breath, with your tone, with the way in which you're simultaneously occurring with that sound in that moment. And then all of a sudden, the shape R is there. And you're like, whoa, there's an R. Because R is there, and you can feel its curvature by the way you entered and came in. You know that O comes after the R, or A comes after the R, whichever. You get Ra, or Ryan, or Ran, or this, or Rain, or Row, or however. And you can feel the curves. And so as you breathe constantly into the light language, you really, through the light language, feel the curvature of each different syllable structure. And you can start to do that with this language too. Of course, this one's a little slower, so you'll have to be slow if you're going slow, and then you'll rhyme with the syllable structure just fine for the slowness. If you're wanting to go fast, then you're going to have to really trust and go confident fast and not have to observe, and then it'll do it perfectly too. It just really depends on you. And practice always makes perfect, experiencing things directly. And so this is a little introduction into a greater specific understanding as to what it is I'm doing while I'm speaking, breathing, and moving, and doing all the different things that I happen to be doing and showing you through the video viewing. Also, what I've been showing Ray, and she thinks is working probably pretty well herself. She's seen how we've just gone to complete random places. We found vortexes of energy. I've stopped and said, I don't know why I'm stopping here. I just feel like doing it, and we got paid to be in that spot pretty amazingly. So, and we just get paid to be everywhere we are just by following ourselves and our desire authentically, and just continuing to be whatever it is that we wish to be, which for me, luckily, is a being that liberates all beings through its authentic being, naturally. So it's wonderful to be able to do the sowing of that frequency and to be naturally growing into that amazing embodiment of something. Really beautiful. Learning all the different ways to express how to be a benefit to ourselves and to our bodies, and how to work in unison with what we are and what everything is because of this. Like right now, my foot is killing me. It's all numb. I've been sitting on it all crazy. I'm pretty sure that's what's been causing me pain in my tendon, but while I channel, I sometimes get fixated on moving really well in one spot that I don't move all the other spots. So that's why I'm telling you, I'm trying to come to a place where I begin channeling, moving my whole body, but at this time, it does feel like this is like more the body expression that goes with these things. So I'm doing my best to come into the experience and fine-tuning as I come into longer durations of expression with the channels and the way in which they're fine-tuning me to the other beings around me. It can be more difficult because I don't really have a lot of clear mirrors around me, people that can focus with me as long as which I'm able to focus. They can focus for like 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, maybe even a few days. But I mean, for the duration which I'm looking in eternity, it's going to be much more difficult. Luckily for me in video learning or video teaching or video sharing, there isn't really anybody to ask me anything, reply to me at this time, and so the channel can just continue on without any kind of conjecture, without any kind of competition in any kind of a way, and so I can just constantly listen and allow this thing to play and see how it may relate in a perfect way. And also with Ray, in her humble way, it's also been very beautiful and wonderful. And actually, anytime anybody has anything to say, as long as it's done so in a respectful way, I usually have nothing to say in return and have a ridiculous amount of space for listening. If you're ever to fall into the realm of thought around me, it's possible that I will fill the space with what is not thought, and what is spontaneous expression. So you might jump yourself into a place of authenticity and start to judge yourself and observe yourself and start to wish to right yourself to continue on the line you were going. And that realm of lying and authenticity or fakeness that you're trying to control and manipulate yourself to be perceived a certain way isn't usually allowed by my being, and not in a way in which I'm really noticing. It's just that I seem to fill the space with what is honest authenticity, realness, even if it seems to be completely contextually out of sorts, talking about gay cowboys or whatever else. Just showing that it's okay to express in any way is really what it's doing. That, yeah, you can be an idiot, you can say faggot, you can say fuck, you can say shit, you can be gay, you can suck dick, you can eat pussy, you can be a dirty, trashy piece of crap individual. You can do anything, really. I mean, you can sound anyway, act anyway, look anyway, be perceived anyway, and that's just okay. It's only the judgment of ourselves and the wish to not be perceived this way that even causes this, the needing of it to be reflected within our external reality, to push us into our agitation of our own judgment, to be able to transcend through compassion and wisdom whatever it is that's causing us to need such a reflection to happen to us externally and personally, as a collective or individually. So as I continue growing and learning, I'll show more and more about the journey and be able to come into greater realms of specificity as to what it is that happens to be occurring with me. And also, if you become crazy aware, you'll see that I'm explaining again what's occurring with us all. The randomness, the unknownness, the vulnerability of expressing spontaneously in the moment, the not knowing where we're going, but the ability to have some sort of pattern recognition and so many other reflections and direct ways to come into greater realms of description of what it is that seems to be happening within us all simultaneously. Occurring within everything. you'll be able to see that what's happening again with me, saying a limitless mirror of emptiness, is actually what's happening with all that is. In Tibetan Buddhism, they tell us that everything is vast, limitless emptiness. Everything entirely. It's a pure illusion in a sense that it is pure emptiness, every bit of it. So no reason to have judgment or label and distinguish in the ways of our typical human and illusory naturings happen to be leading us through the realms of ignorance into places of great wisdom and compassion, actually. So it's really wonderful to have gratitude for all the stepping stones of our reality and the entire process that has moved. Even the wars and other things, not to say that we celebrate them to continue their motioning, but that we have a reverence and a gratitude for the amazing beings and ancestors that have come before to pave the path to bring upon this amazing liberated understanding, to bring us all into the relevant realization of what is enlightened action through all the ways in which we are, allowing the untying and unbinding of our expressions and the unlimiting of us in such ways that release the resistances and the suppressions that again cause our need for suffering and volatility, and then will allow us to express in a very beneficial and balanced manner in many ways, in many powerful and soft manners that are fun and beautiful and intense and wonderful and powerful and versatile and formless, and provide just the most utter of excitements, even when we may be sleeping or relaxing or sitting by the beach and drinking whatever we may be drinking for our highest amount of pleasure in that moment, from the point in which no longer drinks for reasons to distract in dissonance. That could be water or coconuts, water, or I guess even beer or something. For myself, alcohol has made no more sense, as it